Okay, so in this section, we're going to talk about shifted conics. So everything that we've talked about that's relating to conic sections have always been centered right at the origin. And now what we're going to do are what happens when the conic section is shifted. So this overview of the conics is posted on Canvas, so you can access it. It has all the formulas where things are now shifted. So now basically the vertex of like a parabola is no longer at 0, 0, it's at hk. So I wrote it down here, and then once that happens, obviously you can see that when we're talking about parabolas, the focus would be p comma 0. Now we have an hk, so we're going to add the p into the h for this particular parabola, because this is horizontal, so that means that the parabola is going this way, so you're adding it in the h direction. When it's vertical, when it's happy, then you see that the p is being added to the y direction. So basically everything is still the same, we're just extending it to now a different in a different location. Same thing with this guy. Everything has been the same, even including the equations for the focus. Everything is the same. It's just that when we're finding the center, foci, the major axis and whatnot, we're just adding it to the center, which is hk. Same thing with a hyperbola. The only thing that maybe might be a little different is just the equations of the asymptotes. Okay, so that's a little bit different too. But here I also have still the equation of the foci. You can still get it there. Okay, so this is, you can use this. I don't use any of these formulas. I just go ahead and just do it based on the graph. I always just graph the conic, and then after you finish graphing the conic, you can figure out everything else. I'll be referring it back, but let's just do at least 3 examples or 4 examples to kind of get used to the shifted conics. So the first thing to kind of start off, let's try this problem out. So let's say we have, let's see, so we want to find, so given this, x minus 1 squared over 25 plus y minus 2 squared over 4 is equal to 1. So notice here that now the conic is no longer x squared over something plus y squared over something. Now you have something inside of it. Okay, so what we want to do is let's graph this. Let's graph, find foci. Okay, and yeah, let's just do those two because I think that might be the hardest part. Now, one of the things to really know about the shifted conics is whenever you have h comma k, that's always going to be inside of the squared term. So you can always see that whenever we talk about the vertex hk, notice that in the insides, these guys are always the opposite signs. So if this was a plus, that means the vertex will be a minus. So in this case, let's try to graph this. So if we first start off with the vertex, so the vertex in this case is going to be 1, 2. Okay, so now the center, maybe I should call it center, not vertex. The center of this guy is going to be 1, 2. Now, why is the center? Well, first of all, you can see the plus here. The plus indicates that this guy is an ellipse. Okay. So let's attempt to graph this. So we know that the graph is going to be at 1, 2. The center at 1 and then 2. So that's going to be the center of this ellipse. Now, what is a squared? Okay, so a squared is going to be the largest one. So in this case, this guy is going to be a squared, and this guy is going to be b squared. So in the x direction, a squared is 25, which means the square root of 25 is going to give me 5. That means I'm going to move 5 units this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm now going to be at 6. And then 5 units on the other direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'm at -4. So now this guy is going to be right there. Now for this one, you have b squared equals 4, so that's going to give me 2. So starting from the center, you're going to go up 2 units, and then you're going to go down 2 units. So 1, 2. All right, So now you see the ellipse right here. Oops. So this ellipse is going to look like this. So it's shifted. It's no longer at the origin. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. So just keep in mind that we are not starting at the origin anymore. We're going 5 units this way, 5 units that way, 2 units that way, 2 units down. Okay. So now let's go ahead and find the foci. So to find the foci, you know that it's going to be wherever the major axis is. So you can see that the major axis is going to be on the x direction. So that means that the foci are going to be somewhere in there. So let's first start off to figure out what the value should be. So we know c squared equals a squared minus b squared. Okay, so here c squared is going to stay the same. Your a squared was this 25. And then your b squared was that 4. Okay, so we got, oops, wrote b. So you're going to get c squared is equal to 21. So you're going to get c is equal to plus or minus square root of 21. Okay, now before we would say that the answer would be this number comma 0, but we're not doing that. We're doing it based on the center. So the center right now is at 1 comma 2. All right, now notice the foci is going to be along the x direction. So that means this amount, we're going to add it to the x direction. So the foci is going to be 1 plus or minus square root 21 comma 2. This will be the solution. Now, if you ever get confused about where exactly it could be, you can always go to the conic section overview and you can see that you are going to be adding this c value into the h. You're going to add it and subtract it. Okay, so when you go on WebAssign, you have to be very careful because sometimes they might want it like this: 1 plus square root of 21, 2, and then 1 minus square root of 21, 2. So you might have to do it like this. Okay, all right, so that's how you find the center, the foci, and you graph it. Okay, so let's do another problem. So let's say we want to find the vertex, focus, and directrix of the parabola. Okay, so here is going to be my equation. So it's going to be x minus 3 squared is equal to 8y plus 1. Okay, so you can kind of see that this guy, you can see that the x's are going to be squared. So you're going to have a parabola that goes up and down, either up and down, okay, like that, because this y is not the one that's squared. Okay, so here what we want to do is we want to kind of think about how exactly what's going to be my vertex in this case. Well, here is where it would be a good idea to kind of compare it with the original, because with the parabolas, at least with the ellipse and the hyperbolas, they're really easy to figure out where they're at. But with the parabolas, there might be a little bit more difficult. So so let's go ahead and compare this with the actual equation that's squared. So you can see that in this case, this is the one that I'm looking for. This 4p y minus k. So 4p y minus k is equal to x minus h squared. So that's what we want. All right, so now let's rewrite this in the form that I want it in. So all I got to do is just flip it. So flip these guys, so you'll have 8y plus 1 is equal to x minus 3 squared. So that way it's easier to compare. So remember that the vertex for the parabola is going to be h comma k. Okay, so that one's going to be, the vertex is just going to be h comma k. In this case, h is equal to 3 and k is equal to plus 1, but we're going to switch it to negative 1. So that's going to be the vertex of this parabola. Okay, now what's going to be the focus? Okay, well, the focus is going to be whatever this p stuff is. Okay, notice that this guy should equal this guy. So So we're going to take 4p and set it equal to 8. So divided by 2, so p is equal to 2. So that's going to be the focus. Okay, so now remember that if I want to find the focus, let's look at the formulas. If you want to find the focus, you're just going to add p to the k. Okay, so the focus is going to be h, k, plus p. Okay, so now in this case, h is just equal to 3. This is negative 1 plus 2. So this is going to give me 3. Negative 1 plus 2 is just going to give me 1. Okay, so that's what that one's going to be. Okay. All right, so now what we want to do is, I think was the other one, is to find the directrix. Okay, so we want to be able to find the directrix. And the directrix is just going to be y is equal to k plus p. Okay. So k in this case is equal to negative 1. So all I'm just using is using the formulas over here. Oh, sorry, k minus p. K minus p. So it's going to be negative 1 for the value of k, and then minus p, and p in this case is 2. So it's going to be negative 3. Okay, so y equals negative 3 is going to be the directrix. Okay, so in this case, they didn't ask us to draw it, so you don't need to, but we can if you want to. So if you have 3 comma negative 1, it's going to be my vertex. Notice that my focus is going to be at 3, 1. So there's my focus. My directrix is going to be 2 units below that, negative 3. Notice that this is a happy parabola, so you can kind of see that the focus is in the inside and the directrix is right below it. Okay? So with the parabola, actually, I would suggest for you to kind of do that. So to kind of look at the formula sheet. I think that for the parabola, it will be really useful. Okay. So now let's do 2 more problems. So let's say for this particular problem, we want to find the center, the vertices, the foci, and asymptotes. Okay. So here is my problem. So my problem will be y plus 2 squared divided by 36 minus x squared over 64 equals 1. So you can see here that this guy is going to be a hyperbola. This hyperbola. So you can see that the vertex, oh no, not the vertex, the center, okay, it's not a 0, 0, it's shifted. So in the x direction, there's nothing. And in the y direction, it's just going to be minus 2. So that's going to be the center of this hyperbola. Notice that in this case, this guy is going to be my A, and this guy is going to be my B. So when I want to figure out my foci, remember you're going to use c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So c squared is going to be equal to a squared. So this guy's my a squared, which is 36. This guy's my b squared, so it's going to be 64. Okay, so now we're going to do c squared is equal to, what is this, 100? So c equals 10, plus or minus 10. So what that means is that we're going to add plus or minus 10 into the hyperbola. Now, where are the foci? So that's what I was saying. It's really, if you're not using the formulas, or the formulas confuse you, especially for ellipse or hyperbola, you might want to draw it. So if I draw it in the y direction, you're going to go 6 units. But first, let's draw the center. So it'll be 0, negative 2. Okay, 0, negative 2. So starting from there, this is my new starting point. So starting from there, you're going to go 6 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be one of them. And then you're going to go 6 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the x direction, you're going to go 8 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then you're going to go 8 units back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this way. And now you can kind of see my box. Okay. So you're going to see this box. And we can go ahead and find the equation of the asymptotes very easily by drawing the diagonal. And then finally, you can see that since y is the one that's positive, my hyperbolas are going to be pointing up. So what that tells you is that my foci are going to be along the y-axis. So they're going to be somewhere up here. Okay, so that means that I'm going to be adding this c value to the center in the y direction. Okay, and if you were looking at the formula sheets, because it's going up and down, it's vertical, you can see that I'm adding the c value in the y direction. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to have the center being 0, nothing's happening there, and I'm taking this -2 and I'm adding and subtracting 10. So this guy is just going to be 0, comma, -2 plus 10 is going to give me an 8. That's going to be the first point. 0, -2 minus 10 is going to give me a -12. So here are where my foci are going to be. Okay. Now what I'm looking for is going to be my vertices. I got the center. I got the foci. I want to find the vertices. The vertices are going to be wherever you have the transverse axis, which is right there. So from this one, you can either add or you can just count. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's 6. Yeah. So vertices is going to be, that's wrong. That should be 4, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So that would be 0, 4. And then here I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I'm kind of lost. Let's see. What was this? Yeah, okay. So -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. Okay. So 0, -8. Okay. I just was not counting right. Okay. So this is what be my vertices. Again, you could just use the formula sheet. Okay. And now the only thing that is left is just the asymptotes. In terms of the asymptotes, you can also just count. You can just do the rise over the run. I think for the asymptotes, because they can be really, really annoying when they're not in the center, you can just go ahead and just use the formula sheets. Okay, so use this guy. So let's just go ahead and write it out. So we're going to have y minus k is equal to plus or minus a over b, x minus h. So in this case, my k was equal to -2 plus or minus a. A in this case was 6 over b is going to be 8, and then x minus 0. So you can just leave it like that, so you can just reduce it. Y plus 2 equals plus or minus 6 divided by 8. That thing is just going to give me 3 over 4, and then x. So this guy is going to be my equation of the asymptotes. Okay. All right. So the last problem that I kind of just want to briefly go over is something that might not be in the greatest form. So you might have to use a little bit of completing the square. So let's say, for example, we want to identify the conic. To find the conic. So let's say you ended up with something that looks really, really weird. 9x squared minus 4y squared minus 72x plus 8y plus 176 equals 0. So something that is completely like, it seems like someone foiled everything out. So what you want to be able to do is you want to group all of your x's. So you're going to have 9x squared minus 72x. And you want to be able to group all of your y's also. So you have this -4y squared plus 8y. I'm going to get rid of that 176 to the other side. Just move it over. It's not doing anything. Okay. And what you're going to do now is you're going to complete the square. So the first thing that you're going to do is let's go ahead and start off by factoring out a couple of things. Okay. So the first thing that I see is that you got a 9 here, and then you're going to be left with x squared minus 8x. Here you can take out a negative 4, and you're going to have y squared minus 2y is equal to negative 176. Okay, and now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and complete the square. And remember, what we do to complete the square is you take negative 8 divided by 2 and then square it. Okay, so what is that going to give me? So that guy is just going to give me negative 8 divided by 2 gives me negative 4. Squared gives me 16. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 16 here. But that's not done because I got to add 16 to the other side. But right before I add it, notice that you have a 9 there. So what that means is that you have to multiply that guy by a 9. 9 times 16 is going to give me 144. Okay, so I'm going to put the 144 over there. So plus 144. And then here I'm going to take this negative 2 divided by 2 and square it. That's just going to give me 1. So I'm going to add 1 over here. But right before I move it over, I'm going to multiply this by a negative 4. So that's going to give me a negative 4 over here. Okay, so now I'm going to have 9. This guy's going to give me x minus 4 squared when I factor it, minus 4 y minus 1 squared is equal to negative 176 plus 144 minus 4. That's going to give me negative 36. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is just divide by this negative 36 to all the sides to set it equal to 1. So this guy is going to give me a negative. So it's going to give me a negative x minus 4 squared divided by, this is going to give me a 4. This is going to give me a positive y minus 1 squared. That's going to give me a 9 equals 1. And to make it a little better, you can just write it as y minus 1 squared over 9 minus x minus 4 squared over 4 equals 1. And you can see that this guy is just a hyperbola. So sometimes you might have to complete the square to be able to find it and make it in the form that you want it.